And we're live back in the Crash Labs podcast. Well, actually, this is a new podcast that we're christening today with perhaps one of my all-time favorite guests.
We'll see.
And maybe the all-time favorite guest.
Yeah, so far.
Mr. Jim Paterson.
Pleasure to be here.
Did I say it right?
You nailed it, man.
Because you know what?
I was worried.
I've always said Paterson.
Yeah.
Well, who the fuck says Paterson when it's spelled Paterson?
Yeah. 2 in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's me.
Yeah. Do you get Paterson a lot?
All the time.
Yeah.
I get corrected a lot, too.
Do you correct it?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Really?
Oh, excuse me. Can I say that? No.
It's Paterson.
Yes.
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay.
Like, swearing's fucking, this is what it's about. It's entertaining. So Jim is president of the Discovery Group. Let's talk
I'm
about
a principal of the Discovery Group.
Principal of Discovery
Yes.
Group. Okay, so let's talk about Discovery Group.
Let's do it.
Many of the listeners of the show may have heard of Discovery Group. Certainly, if you've been in the mining game, you should know something about Discovery Group. You've got tombstone after tombstone after tombstone of fantastic, successful deals. I don't think there's been a more successful bunch. And I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Not in modern times. So why don't you walk me through that? Like, how did the Discovery Group come together, and what is the Discovery Group?
Well, I can start with humility. There have been groups like Lundin or Ross Beatty, a lot of people here in Toronto. So there's been some real winners. But from an early stage exploration perspective, I think we've been winners for sure. I started working with John Robbins, who's the principal of the group, a rainmaker of the group, in 2001, informally. And then the group came together formally in 2005. We worked together till about 2010. And then there was a bit of a wobble there in the group. And then we came back together again formally and rebranding in 2016 with the sale of Kaminak to Goldcorp.
Okay.
And then since then, we've had wins like Northern Empire, Great Bear. You may have heard of Great Bear.
Yep.
Great Bear royalties.
K92 was that part of you guys
No,
too? Or
K2 is
K2.
part of our-
Sorry, K2.
K92 is
K92 is the other one.
Yeah, it's Brian Sluzarchuk,
Right.
who's a monster in and of himself. You know, he's an amazing guy. But that's in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, right. And then you had Kodiak Copper as well.
In our group right now, they're still in our group.
Okay.
I was mentioning names that had left and exited. So
Okay.
over the years, we've raised definitely over $1 billion in aggregate and had about $2.6 billion in exits. So we've had some good deals. Yeah, it's been real wins. And really, it's all about exploration with us.
Yeah.
You know, the real wins have come through the drill bit.
So how does that come together? Do you guys have meetings? Do you guys sit down and talk on a regular basis, kind of lay your cards out? I've got this idea. You've got that idea. Like, is it like that? Or how does that all kind of give us a little bit of a sense of how that group kind of generates ideas, or at least comes together on things?
Well, I think we get a ton of deal flow.
Right.
Obviously, because when you've had a win, people come from Chile, people come from Australia or Europe or Africa. If they come to Vancouver, they're told you have to stop in at this place and talk to these guys. And we're one of those stops, I guess. And then if it works for us, like, for example, we won't go into any area in the world unless we feel like we have regional expertise, or the team coming to us is the regional expertise and we trust them.
Got it. So you'll work with other groups. People will come in with ideas. You vet those ideas, go through them. So you've got a trap line that's set forth by the brand, by the group being so good.
Yeah.
And then what you guys bring to the table, obviously, notwithstanding knowledge of how to navigate through markets, connections, Rolodex, financeability, brand, etc. Am I getting that kind of right? Beyond the geology?
Yeah, you nailed it all. I think the other one is buying power. So there's something to be said for, if we've got 9 public companies in the group right now, and they're all different sizes, they're all different stages of development, they're all different jurisdictions of the world, different commodities. But if there is a synergy there, like we've got 3 or 4 companies that are in Northern Canada, and a geophysical contractor comes to us, we can spread a pretty big contract out for that contractor and say, look, the price, if you want to work with these 3 companies, is going to be lower than working with one on its own. We can negotiate against and with and for each other, against bankers.
Yep.
As well, there's something to be said for being able to walk down the hallway and ask somebody who's done work in a certain area of the world, What do you know about this person? What do you know about this project? What do you know about this report or this commodity? And having that in-house expertise that's part of the group, but not necessarily part of your company.
Right. So there's a bit of a group think that you can lean on there, where that group knowledge, I guess,
Yeah.
that acquired tacit knowledge
It's
that only
huge.
one. Yeah, that's fantastically valuable. And then also you mentioned it, I think too, that you guys tend to support, like you've got a pool of people there that are part of the group that it seems like all have personal cash in their genes and are able to have the fiscal capacity to participate in the market and support deals. Do you often find that, like, do you think that sets you apart too, having that ability to have other guys that are with you that can kind of co-play in each other's deals and collectively finance these things, or at least present a sort of a kickstart on orders and things like that?
Yeah, I kind of segment it. Like there are certain deals that we can bring to. So let me start over. There are certain people we can bring anything to, and they're interested because they like us and want to play in the group. There are other people that will take our meeting, and they won't necessarily say yes, but they'll take a meeting anytime, and it's up to us to prove to them it's a good deal. And not everybody has that kind of access, so we can get great meetings, and it's up to us to succeed in that meeting, selling them on the idea that we have. In some cases,
we've overlapped in some of these things, or at least I mean we've co-invested in things before, so I've gotten a sense of some of how that works. But I've also seen, like, in participating or looking at things that you guys have done, you tend to individually play in these things as well alongside.
that's the only thing we do.
Right.
So as a group, we're not about like, hey, you're in the group, so we're going to just stick our big hose up to your treasury and just suck all the cash out because you're part of Discovery Group.
Right.
It's the opposite. You're part of the group. It's because we're shareholders.
Right.
And I think that gives you the moral high ground, which is necessary and sometimes in tough market conditions. Say, look, I'm right with you. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you as an investor, as an owner of this deal. I'm not sucking management fees out of this company to your detriment.
How important is it when a company, let's say it meets all the technical markers, you like management, let's say, or you like the guys that are bringing it forward? How important is it that they're able to tell a good story? Do you look at that and say, we can inject that into the thing and help to brand this and market it and tell this story the way it should be told? Do you find that oftentimes when you run into things that you see or perceive as valuable, that the people in charge maybe don't know how to sell it properly?
Yeah, it happens a lot. And when I first started working with the group, my job was to carry the bag with the laptop and the PowerPoint projector, and to say funny things and make jokes during the meeting as a geologist, kind of fumbled through the meeting with the money, and then follow up back, grab the business card and follow up after, kind of connect the dots. But what we're finding now is that we're pretty good marketers in terms of branding, logos, getting the audience, but people need to practice, and they need like honest feedback in terms of how you communicate with different groups of people.
Yep.
So if you're making a technical presentation at Roundup or PDAC, you can talk for 35 minutes with very detailed slides, but you're going to lose almost everyone else if that's how you communicate with a retail investor.
Right. That's good for a technical audience, but not good for anybody else. Yeah.
And a good story is in 2005, when we were formally branded, there were, I think, 5 public companies in our group at that time, and we had 4 or 5 brand new investor relations people. And I forced them, as part of their job, to go to Toastmasters every week. And it was early enough in the year. We were all coming to Toronto, and all the companies were going to be presenting at the Cambridge House in, I think it was like February or something like that, or maybe April, so long ago now. But what we did is Toastmasters has this range. It's a public speaking club. It's international. And you walk through 10 speeches to work on different aspects of your speaking ability. So we got them to do the pitch, the presentation for their company 10 different times. And they were evaluated by people, like random people in this club that knew nothing about mining or exploration. So when they were talking all these terms that might be in the boardroom of Canaccord, something that was understandable, but to the normal layperson, like, what the hell are you talking about? So they had to appeal to that audience. And when we went to the Cambridge House that year, our guys nailed it. They had 400 to 500 people in the audience in each of them, and they were super confident. And totally killed it. It was one of my proudest moments.
Really?
It was so
That's
great.
a killer strategy. That's a
was
really
great.
good idea. And I think, geez, I mean, I run into people all the time that I think could benefit from having a little bit of that, you know, to be able to tell their story better, to be able to communicate with people. And it's such a big, I harp on it all the time, but I think it's a big, important part of the job. And, you know, I think the word promoter has a negative connotation to it, to some. And to me, it's like, not at all. I think if someone's a good promoter, great. What a badge of honor, you know? Like, you ever run into that?
I would consider myself a promoter.
Right.
From a personality perspective and a job function perspective. And now we work with Capital Events Management. Patrick Finucane is someone who just got hired by them. And after all these years, I really felt like I needed help. I needed like some real honest advice. So there are people that are working in the space right now that are amazing at giving feedback. And I think all CEOs should listen to themselves a few times in videos and say, would you buy anything from this person?
Right. How did you get into this space? Like, what was your kind of foray into mining?
In 1996, I was attending BCIT, which is like Ryerson here in Toronto. It's a technical institute.
Yep.
And near the end of the year, my second year in the program, I was panicking because I didn't have my job lined up. And I wanted to be a commodities trader. And I didn't know anybody who was a commodities trader, but one of my friends, his dad worked in industry, now, kind of doing what I do now, but so long ago I didn't even know what that was. And I called him, and he didn't call me back. So I called him 19 more times. And then finally, his executive assistant put me through to him, and he said, "You're so annoying. You should come work for me."
Amazing.
Yeah. So that was early '97. And then the first day on the job was the second Black Monday. So there's one in '87. There's one in '97 too, the end of October. So I phoned like 200 U.S. stockbrokers on the biggest percentage drop in history. And I got told to fuck off like 14 times. And at the end of the day, I was like, man, everyone totally hates me. What am I doing wrong? And he's like, it's just the market, just the day. This is going to be the worst day of your career.
Really? Just keep going.
Yeah.
And does it bother you when someone says to fuck off? Like,
No,
when
it
you look
happens a
back
lot.
on that, you're like, whatever. Like, it's part of the game.
I think I probably would have pushed even harder to get even more raw feedback like that. I mean, knowing now what I've been through. Yeah, it was a great time. In the mining sector, it was really, there was this gap. There were all these old guys, and there was nobody in between. There was almost nobody that was young.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason why I kind of am respected is because I stayed at it when I was the only one. I was recognizable, and people saw me at a show, and they didn't say hi or whatever for 1 or 2 years, but then they saw me around for long enough. I said, this guy's going to be around for
Forever.
yeah.
Yeah.
So might as well say hi. So I've made some great friends.
Good. I like it. Walk me through a little bit of something. I guess today we have something in store for the listeners.
I'm
and
excited.
something that they can participate in. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we get into that, just to kind of touch on what we're seeing now in the markets, what's your take? I mean, having been through the last cycle, certainly, from 96 onwards, where do you think we're at today in this market? I mean, it feels like this has been kind of a long, drawn-out thing. The second part of that question is, do you participate on a regular, do you trade a lot in this environment? Is that, do you only play through private placements and through big deals, or do you like to play in the market yourself?
No, I'm a degenerate buyer in the open market for sure.
You day trade?
I don't really day trade. I mean, I actually feel like a pretty poor day trader.
Yeah.
But I definitely am a big buyer of things that I am involved with. The only problem with that is it's really hard to sell if I'm a director. I can't.
Or an insider,
So if I get in, I'm kind of trapped until we do something big.
Yep.
And so sometimes that works out, and other times it doesn't.
Where do you think this market's kind of at? Where do you think, what's your feeling on everything now? Are we going to get a change here? We all kind of hope that things turn around. First of all, do you think that there's anything broken with this? Do you think that there's, that there's opportunity more now than there was? Do you think what's your sort of general feeling on the market where it sits?
All the money's made when you buy.
Yeah.
It's, when there's liquidity, you take your time and you can sell for sure. But now you make your choices, and they can have huge upside. I think that there will be some companies that just don't recover, and they don't deserve it. If they've got a dumb project and idiot management. There's not enough money floating around to finance those guys unless they're lying. But I think that there are certain groups that will get the money for sure because there's absolutely a need for the materials. And there's more than ever a need for gold. It's a crazy world we're living in.
Yep.
And so I think I feel the gold price is going to rock. I think the uranium price is going to crest $100 soon. I don't know enough about what's going on in places like China or what will actually happen in Europe in terms of industrial growth to know what will happen to copper or zinc. But I feel that they'll move, you know?
Would you say that you've made most of your money trading on the open market, kind of buying and selling things that you like? Or do you think it's been mostly through deal creation?
I think it's not necessarily deal creation, but it's definitely deal success.
Yeah.
If I look back, like I've made a whole bunch of bad trades, but when we get it over the line and we sell the company, I've had really great.
Like a Great
wins.
Bear, for example.
Great Bear was amazing, but Northern Empire as well. Like, if you look at my insider trades for Northern Empire, I was buying and buying and buying and buying, and then I was like, am I completely insane? But I just kept buying more. But I totally believed in what we were doing and the team. And I'd been to the project, and I just thought, like, this thing is worth so much more than the market's giving it credit for. We just need to get it over the hump and turn the switch somehow in either a buyer or, you know, a big strategic investor. And it ended up being a buyer.
What do you make of like the seasonality of the markets? Like, do you sometimes play that? Do you look at like, you know, different seasonality trades, the Christmas trades, the, you know, summer lull? Like, do you kind of look in how to stab in and stab out, make some quick money on that?
I think it's real. Like, I haven't done a lot on the seasonality normally because I'm completely deployed.
Right.
Like, I don't have I'm not a careful man who's got half of his money in cash ready to deploy at, you know, in the fall because I think it's gonna at a seasonal low.
Yeah.
But definitely, I know when we raise money, it totally affects the pricing. You know, if you raise money too late, you somehow get caught in the summer doldrums, and then just all the interest evaporates. So, absolutely, as an investor, and I would think with CEO.CA, if you've got those tools, you know, pick 20 or 30 Northern Explorers, for example, in Canada, and say, give me the 2-year history on these babies and what lines up. I'll bet you'll see. I mean, because not only is there a lack in news flow, but there'll be absolutely a push to raise money at certain areas. And that obviously has pressure, you know, creates downward pressure on stocks too across the board.
What do you make of like warrants and stuff? Do you think that that's by and large a helpful instrument? Or do you think that it's an overhang?
I think it's the bane of existence to public companies.
Yeah?
Yeah, totally.
I agree with you.
It makes it real hard. Like,
Yeah.
you know, investors don't really know like the day-to-day, but as the CEO of a publicly traded junior explorer, you basically wake up and you've got like 13 problems in your inbox when you wake up, and you just got to solve them. That's your job. There's like, depending on what's going on.
Putting out fires.
You're putting out fires. Boom, 13 fires. A big fire is some clown hitting the bid from house one. You know, you don't know who they are. And that happens all the time in the market where, you know, it's particularly in times when if the market's dry, there's not a lot of buyers, and then there's like somebody clipping a warrant or something.
Just an anonymous smash.
Boom, boom,
And
boom,
then
boom. And,
clipping
you know,
the
they're exercising warrants, and they've already sold their stock, and, you know, they're just kind of exiting, and they're just taking their time. Then, and you can phone them and ask them, hey, are you selling? Are you buying? Oh, no, I'm holding. And you just realize at the end of the month, they're totally gone. They've lied to you. So
What about traditional flow through? Not charitable.
it really depends on who they are, really.
Yeah.
And there's some really good players right now. And I think the charity right now, the charity trade, I'm not sure if that will end next year or what will actually happen to it. But
Yeah.
I like the charity flow through aspect because I'm able to pick the back end.
Yeah, you can
buyers
place the
myself.
back end, so you're not really worried about that coming
Yeah.
back in your market. But on the
Exactly.
traditional flow, you can't really pick that, right?
You can't, but you can choose. You can choose the providers you work with, and
Sure.
you know, I mean, the thing is, I don't ever mind when an investor sells their stock. I'm happy when they come into the market. Like if they're buying on a day, if I've needed to raise money and I'm counting that last 25,000, I'm happy they're there. So they're not around just to support me, my lifestyle.
No.
If they want to sell stock, go for it. I want them to win.
If you can buy it, you can sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Some
believe
guys are not like that. They're like, why are you selling my stock? It's because I'm an investor.
I think a lot of guys obsess over their stock. I don't know if you've ran into this, like with CEOs or with people that you've gotten close to that are now running a deal that you're supporting. Let's say, do you ever find that, I mean, at least in my purview, I find that oftentimes it's a big red flag for me when I meet these guys, or I make an investment, or we're working together on something, and then suddenly every day is a phone call. So and so RBC selling. I think I just got another Noble list, and I'm tracking, and things are tightening up, and I just got so and so's on the buy, and if you come in there and hit the they're kind of always trying to almost micromanage their market. Do you think there's value in that, or do you think that's a total fucking waste of time?
I don't think it's a total waste of time. I think that there could be someone in their organization that does that worrying, and not the CEO. I mean, I think that you need a healthy capital market. Like, you need trading, and you need interest. And if investors look at your deal and there's no market, they don't want to play because they won't be able to get out. So, a healthy market's important. I guess I've been in the business since 97, so I do tend to watch the market. I mean, all of my money's in the market, so I definitely watch it. And all, like ValOre, for example, I'm watching it, or any deal that we've ever had, I'm watching the thing. But I don't get upset day to day on it, because I realize that you can't push something artificially. If there's a bunch of people that want to get out, and you spend a bunch of money pushing the stock up, or a bunch of effort, you're just basically giving them a higher price to exit.
Yeah.
So you just got to kind of go with the flow.
That's sort of my feeling too. It's like I think that you can't manufacture a win.
Exactly.
By manipulating, I'll call it manipulating, even though it's not. Let's just say managing the market to some effect. If it's even being, they feel like they're managing it, but is it actually being managed? I don't know. But from my perspective, it's always like, just worry about spending your money wisely, worry about delivering, and field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you succeed, if you drill some great holes, if you promote yourself, your story appropriately, and you put up the numbers and you put up the success, the money part, the market will fall into place. That's kind of my feeling on it. Maybe I'm too optimistic that markets are that efficient, and that maybe I should care a little bit more about what the market's doing, what the stock's doing. But I feel like oftentimes I'll talk to somebody and they're like super hyper focused on that and not really looking in their universe and their sphere of managing this. Like, what could you be doing better to have a better profound impact, rather than calling shareholders and friends that can, support the stock on a daily basis, or not sell, or who's selling, or whatever.
Well, it was funny because Chris Taylor, I interviewed Chris Taylor in Vancouver maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, or a month ago. We had this thing called Discovery Days, and he was talking about the importance of talking to individual shareholders, particularly when things got really tough. And he was making the point that when the thing was sold, when the company was sold to Kinross, the amount of retail shareholders was tremendous. It wasn't like 80% institutionally held. I think it was plus 60 or something more were retail. I don't know the exact number. He did tell me, but and it's because they love Chris. But he did pace around a lot with his phone in his ear, talking to different people that kind of needed coaching, or counseling, let's say, along the way before it started really rocking. But I agree with what you were saying. In the end, we're not in this business to create a business that's just appealing to 1 or 2 retail shareholders. I'm in the business to add value to a project, to be appealing to a corporate, or an institutional strategic investor, someone who buy, or maybe we can merge with somebody. So that's what I'm working on. So the day-to-day is certainly important, but the long-term vision is do enough good stuff to answer the questions, reduce risk, add the value, and then we got a job to do of pitching the improved project or company to a bigger investor who will buy us. That's what we want. So then you avoid the kind of that day-to-day noise.
I'd love to have Chris on here at some point. I think it'd be good.
Oh, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, he'd be.
He's an amazing guy.
He'd be a good one to have on.
Yeah.
So we've got something special for our guests today. You and I were talking on the phone before doing this, and we said, what would be fun? Would be to do a little contest, have a little fun. November sucks.
Terrible.
It always sucks. In fact, November is like the all-time shittiest month in performance. Stocks more often sell off. I think there's 2 main months, June and November, right? Those are the 2 worst performing months a year. And we've got a chart for that. And then one of the unique things about November, and actually June to this effect, is that it's marked by the rally that they tend to have in Decembers. And so you can see this chart here. We've got number of positive versus negative months historically. November, 13 negative months, 9 positive months. But in every instance that November ends on a positive note, December always rallies to follow. So 18 out of 4 Decembers. 18 Decembers have been positive months versus 4 negatives. And I think that just exemplifies what happens in, we call it tax loss selling, right? So we see this spike on names in December that bounce basically off of all of the selling that we experience in the fall.
Well, let me jump in because this is a really important point. So lessons that somebody might learn from our discussion today look like they're totally applicable in June again if you think you missed November, right?
Sure.
Look at
absolutely.
that. Look at
absolutely. Yeah. No. June, July has a very similar relationship. Now, we had a very special mandate, you and I. We said, okay, well, why don't we look in the month of November for the top 20 losers of November?
Yes.
Now, I say losers playfully. Everybody's a winner. We know that. Everybody wins. But this is our top 20 losers. And so these are all the companies that have performed the poorest in the month of November. We've got a few basic criteria that we set out. We said, okay, company has to have a minimum market cap post-sale of $5 million. And we said company has to trade at least $5,000 a day.
It's a very low bar.
It's a low bar, right? But we wanted to go down. This is a bit of a thing, right?
Out of curiosity, though, how many companies on the venture don't trade 5,000 a day?
We definitely know that. I don't know that offhand, but there's a lot.
Oh, really?
there's like really a lot. It's a low bar, but it's at least a bar. So we've come up with the following list of names, and you and I said, well, we're going to have a little game. We're going to try to, we'll talk a little bit about day trading. We'll talk a little bit about trading in this space and what matters, what doesn't matter, what to look for. And then we'll talk about, we'll pick 3 names each. That was our goal.
And we won't tell each other.
We won't tell each other. We'll pick secretly picking 3 names, which we are unveiling today in this podcast.
This is massive.
And then the winner has to buy the other one a lobster dinner at Red Lobster. And then we thought, well, it'd be fun to open it up to all the listeners to play in this contest.
Absolutely.
And then if they beat us, then we have to buy them a lobster dinner.
Yeah.
So here's the key features to this contest. So entry deadline, 9:29 a.m. Eastern, December 15th, 2023. Contest starts 9:30 a.m. Eastern on December 15th. That's when this will be going live. And the contest ends at 4 p.m. on January 15th. So that's when the trades, the deals we pick, January 15th, cutoff date, whatever the stock performs in that period determines what happens. Pick 3 stocks from the list we've provided of the poorest performing mining stocks. Each of these companies has a market cap at least $5 million and daily trading volumes exceeding 5K. Post their tickers in a single message in the hashtag Golden Bib Contest channel. So we'll put some links and descriptions in the YouTube, probably the YouTube post. This will be on CEO.CA. We'll and probably blast it out to our email group.
Does the winner have to wear a golden bib the entire meal?
Fuck, that'd be a
I think
good
they
idea.
should.
Not real gold?
Not real, gold foil maybe.
We'll find like a gold bib.
Yeah.
Like it could be like a painted gold. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe all 3 of us should
and a
have to wear
ridiculous purple crown from Christmas.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I like
Getting
that.
big here.
The person with the highest aggregate percentage return in January wins a trip to PDAC in 2024 and a lobster dinner with Jim and myself.
Oh, man.
And so we are committing to this.
Yes.
And you know, it's going to be fun. So let's kick it off. So here we're going to pull up some stuff. What did you do to look at this list? How did you first evaluate it?
I don't like buying stuff and then not being able to sell it.
Okay.
So I did look a little bit about at market cap and volume.
Liquidity.
Yep. Because when you're right, but you can't sell, then you're wrong. And so that was important. And I don't know whether this will actually have an effect on the market or not, but the worst thing in the world would be for someone to follow my advice, your advice, their advice, whatever, and not be able to get out of the thing. And that would be bad. So I wanted some liquidity. I think there'll be a lot more liquidity in the new year. I think November was just absolutely terrible. And that's why it's a perfect time to do this. So that one was for sure. And I looked for just where it was obvious that they shit the bunk. The investors just, somebody panicked and other people panicked and they were just like lemmings running out of the deal at a certain time. And that did happen in a few of the ones I picked.
Nice. Okay. So you like to look at the veracity of sort of like the capitulation, the investors running for the hills. You liked the liquidity, and so market cap liquidity, making sure that you can put some real money to work in this trade. And which is important. I think anybody looking at this list needs to caveat that realistically. Again, neither Jim or I are licensed professionals.
We're the opposite.
We are not legally allowed to give you investing advice.
Yes.
Don't listen to a thing we fucking say, and do your own homework. And please just, don't listen to us. This is for fun. And but anyways, we're gonna do our best. So for those of you willing to listen to what we have to say, enjoy. So we've got, I'll throw that out there. That's that forward-looking disclaimer.
That was great. Yeah, that was a real risk reducer.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, at some point, like I'm wondering if, I say it every episode, anytime we talk about stocks, I'm wondering if I'm going to get in shit at some point. I hope not.
You could.
But I've been laying
this
it
could
on
be the
thick.
time.
You think this might be it? Okay,
Perfect.
well, let's see.
First time in the new office and all that.
Yeah, well, it could be the end of it. So, all right. So you've got some picks. Do we want to start there? Do you want to lay out your picks?
Yep.
And then go through them? I'll lay out mine and go through them, or how do we want to do this?
I will say yes to your first thing, and I'll do that. I'll lay them out.
Okay.
So my three are First Quantum, that's ticker symbol FM, NioCorp, NB, and Lavras Gold, LGC. First Quantum was down 25%. NioCorp was down 27%, and Lavras was down 27%. If you want to pull up the chart on First Quantum, we had a chat about that earlier. I just think that's great to look at.
Yep.
And, there's a lot going on. There was a note. I read a note 2 days ago from Canaccord. They were just sort of talking about the effects on the country of Panama. There's major social issues. They're shutting that down. But if you look at that chart, I mean, it came off. It was weak in November. And then look at that volume. Look at that thing drop. And whether that means that all the big funds globally that held that thing were pushing their, just selling in capitulation, as you say, or just they were afraid to own it, who knows? But these are not clowns. These guys who run this company, these are a really, really solid management team. And I would think that they've got the best people working on solving this issue. It continued on even after that. Look at that massive volume, that big dump at the beginning of November or end of October, and then that whole month was just so weak. And that was because there's a buyer strike globally on any kind of stock in the mining sector. So that they're not immune to that. And then there was even other puking at the end of the month. Look at that big volume as well. So what I read is it's like 5% of GOP GDP in Panama. The Panama Canal, there's a drought, so the Panama Canal has interrupted service. So it's two of the biggest generators of income in that country are shut down. There's immigrants crossing the border. The UN's moving.
They have a huge migration problem.
It is a basket case. But mines have operated in worse areas of the world. Definitely, if you think about it. And, they generate a lot of cash flow elsewhere. They've got great capital management. And I just looked at that and said, massive volume, totally oversold. And even though the big funds in the world, the generalists might have sold, there's thousands of hedge funds or mutual funds or money managers that would look at this company and think it's a great company and think that they can do a contrarian trade.
Right.
That's my idea. And that's why I think totally oversold.
And you think that these guys with that proportion of GDP contribution, that they may actually have some stroke to maybe turn things around or hatch a plan.
I think they got plans of hatching everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, they had made a point that they shut the mine down, but they've got no kind of shutdown remediation plan. It's like, you can't do that. You can't just shut down an operating mine and just say, everyone leave.
Yeah.
And nothing bad will happen to the environment. So I think they're pushing on all fronts, and they've got operations elsewhere. I think
They have $1.2 billion. I think $1.2 billion cash too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I looked at their cash position.
I mean, the Canaccord note that I looked at, it was saying that, you know, they've got these capital projects elsewhere in the world, but I mean, they can put the brakes on some of those things or slow them down if they needed to. But I mean, I'm not an expert on First Quantum, but I do know they're oversold.
Interesting. Now, I looked at this deal. This one caught my eye as well. It didn't manage to make it into my picks purely because, and I'll give my reasons for it, is that I felt that for all the reasons you mentioned, that is what stimulated the sell-off. Not the cyclicity, not the seasonality, not the fact that it's November. Right. And so rather than expecting like a December bump on the name due to like a November sell-off, I thought that it's almost, I agree with you completely. And in all likelihood, it is the best actual bet on the list. But I don't know if it will perform well in December. So that was the reason why I did not choose First Quantum, just to lay that out. But
we have till January 15th.
We have till January 15th,
right.
And you make some very compelling points. And, you know, as you were talking and I was looking at this volume, it does look like you have both happening. It looks like you have that reason maybe for everything, but the tax loss selling clearly is happening as well with that amount of volume over that much time.
Totally. That's what I think.
Yeah, yeah.
No real strong buying interest.
Okay, cool. So what's the next one?
NioCorp, NB. They also trade on the NASDAQ. And I looked kind of over 2 years. I don't know what that you got right there. But I mean,
he's going to stretch that out for a couple of years because
that's a painful chart, isn't it? Look at that thing.
Keep going, Steph, maybe.
A little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to go back to, well, that does it.
Now go back to, Steph, what were we looking at before?
2020. There's 2022. There's 2023. You got both now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just thought that so from November 2022 to January 23, look at the volume on the Canadian market.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So where were they?
So they got punched out. They got punched out hard in the fall of 22, and then they popped.
And I actually think that they're in the right space. They're oversold. Look where they traded down to. They tried in October to make a recovery. Right there, you see that?
Yeah. It's almost reminiscent of 2022.
Yeah. But I mean, I think they're completely oversold. There was no interest. There's no interest. And I think it's of a size and in the right sector that in the new year it'll come back. So
that's pick two.
That's pick two. And then Lavras Gold, they're 27% down. LGC, they had some great drilling news. And then as is normal with great news, typically you rush your best holes, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes you can see, you're like, let's not waste time doing these in order. That one there looks most interesting. Let's rush it off. So maybe the next round of news isn't as exciting. So they had look at that volume there in late August, and that market cap growth was amazing. So you've got what happens. What I see with discoveries is you have a transformation or an evolution of the shareholder base. So you got to fight to get to that institutional level, and there's a lot of pressure as you're getting in there from the old guard leaving. The old speculators that say, "Holy shit, this is a big win. I'm going to monetize this." So lots of stock gets churned, which you can see there. The news comes out, it's not as spectacular.
Profit taking from the old guard.
Yeah, you can see that.
And then it's dab in from the new guard.
Yeah, and then to build on all that, there's a buyer strike in October and November in the market generally, and specifically or in particular this company as well. So I think that the insider, I mean, you can look on CEO.CA at the insider buying and see if that is relevant to you or not. I think insiders buying is pretty relevant.
Why don't you pull that up, Steph? Why don't you pull up the insider? So fairly recent insider buying, November, right up into the hair.
There's green, right?
There's a lot of greens.
There's a lot of green.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's really important. So, wait till the news is out and you let the market settle. But if the market's not reflecting the value you see, then if you're stepping in, it's a big, strong signal in my mind.
I also liked their drill results. I thought they were pretty good. I also liked their cash position relative to market cap. Steph, if you want to pull up that, because we'll overlap on this name. So where is that? So yeah, there's, I think, Lavras. There you go. Sitting with 14 million in cold hard cash at a 50 million market cap, which is a good place to be in. I agree, off 27%, good results, broad widths, decent grade.
Great place.
Great place, yeah. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that's going to pop.
Yep, so I think it wouldn't take much in terms of, we don't know what the next set of results will bring, but if they're decent, when all the tax loss pressure's gone away, I think this thing moves pretty quick, so I like it.
Nice.
And those are my three.
That's your three? All right. Well, I'm going to go with mine. So my three, a little bit strange. So, of course, Lavras Gold was one of them. We talked about...
Is that your one or your three? What pick is that?
That would be my one.
Wow. Okay.
That's my one pick. My two pick, if you want to go back to the list stuff, just because I got to remember them. So, yes. So Lavras was my one. I had a hard time with the remaining picks, but... not so much. So Azimut was an obvious one. I picked Azimut, and I've got reasons for that. One, healthy cash position. It's a Quebec deal. They've always got that Quebec institutional capital. So you've got that whole Quebec pool of capital that also kind of tends to get roped into this seasonality thing as well. Good audience. They've had a long time to kind of marinate and build that shareholder base, etc.
What year was that company founded?
God, no idea.
But more than, it feels like 15 at least.
I feel like a long time.
They always have great projects.
Yeah, they do.
Seen them around, yeah.
And I looked at their flagship gold project, I think it is right now. And man, alive, it looks great. And actually, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to Azimut, but I will say that gold project that they have, their maiden project, it's a district scale play. They've drilled a small piece of it with with some reasonable fencing, good widths, good grade. It's definitely a big district. So I'm pretty excited about that. Notwithstanding, the litany of all the other points. So one of the things, I cheated a bit in our contest. So Steph,
we welcome cheating.
Yeah, like cheating
in the golden bib contest.
So the golden bib, here's my cheat. So Steph, do you want to pull up the CEO sentiment graphs? You're going to like this cheat. It's okay. It's a decent cheat. We'll share this for people. I should have shared it with you, Jim.
Yeah. There's
win.
A lot of stuff you didn't share.
Well, I wanted to win. I want to wear that goddamn bib.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sentiment. So this is what we're looking at. So here you're seeing all of the messages on CEO.CA.
I suddenly feel like third place is the best I'm going to do in this one.
No. It's a slight edge, if anything. So basically, what it's showing us is positive messages on their boards versus negative messages on their boards relative to the mean.
Okay.
And then you can see a bar plot
relative to what mean?
Like the mean of basically positive and negative messages
for everyone in CO.CA, like every company, or just their messages.
Their messages.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got almost like a moving average of like positive and negative messages, and then if you've got an overwhelming number of positive messages relative to that, then they would plot above that line. that black line. And then if their negative messages be below. So you can see times when there's more positivity than negativity, basically. And then you can see absolute message counts underneath to just kind of track how much activity is going on those boards from their followings. So if you go down, so this is Azimut's, and you can sort of see how that tracks with the share price performance a little bit and volume. We've got the volume clipped off a little stuff. We can't see that totally.
Why is he doing that? It's like half the picture there. Is that on purpose?
What's that?
He's just showing us half the picture.
Oh, he's just got to get it with it.
Man.
Come on, Steph. There we go.
That's better.
Yeah. So then you can see the volumes in the bottom. So there's something you can take away from this. And what I take away from this is that they're an active company. They're actively talked about. They're actively engaged upon.
Yeah.
So this is a deal that I think will respond better. And if you see at the end, there is a slight sign of more positive messages than negative messages. And we're seeing a spike in board activity. So that one, I think, is a very interesting stock that is well poised to bounce. So that is my cheat thing. I've done this for all the companies.
It's pretty major cheat.
So if we want to go to Lavras, that's a reasonable cheat. So Lavras, just to have a look at that one. This one's a fairly new company, so there's not a whole heck of a lot of history on this one. So there you go. So there's Lavras.
Wow.
It's pretty well talked about deal, as you can see, like a healthy blend of both. But you can see that it's been overwhelmingly more positive than negative recently.
Yeah.
Right. So the significance, the positivity kind of outshines the negativity. Again, volume spike and message count spike. So I see this as pretty well. That's why it's my number one pick, because I like the fundamentals of the company, but I also like what I'm seeing here. Now, the next deal we'll look at is my last pick, which is somewhat of a contentious pick. I've had a hard time. So, Steph, you want to open up that list, and I'll talk about a special mention. So my last pick originally, so this is, I cheated.
Wow.
But now I'm going to come clean.
Okay.
My last pick was
Bit of a
Golden
pattern.
Shield Resources.
That's my honorable mention, as you know.
So all fucking hell broke loose on Golden Shield Resources. So I pulled the pick. But because this is the official picking deadline,
Right.
I swapped it out for a different pick. But
Was I given this kind of opportunity?
I don't think you were. So I'm actually gonna.
There are different rules for different players.
No,
here.
for sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna honor the rules, and I'm
totally joking. I don't care. Listen,
dude. I'm gonna go with that as my pick. And then let's talk about the shit show that's going on.
There is a serious shit show here. Let's get into it.
So anyway, so I was liking this pick because of a variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
I liked their results. They had some good results. They have good cash.
They're an amazing team.
Yeah, they're well talked
those guys.
about. Really good guys. Exceptional team. The geology here, it's big geology. I mean, we're looking at, Brimian Shield in West Africa, and then sort of broken off the extension of it in South America. And here's where it all kind of comes together. And then the team is, understands that. And so there's a really big opportunities for big deposits. And we know that about Guyana. But then the political scandal came in, right? So they were talking about, Venezuela was talking about annexing Guyana. And I went, well, fuck, it looks like it didn't work. So I go, well, it sold off probably mostly because of the whole, almost similar to the Panama thing.
Yeah.
Sold off mostly because of this like contentiousness with Venezuela. And so I thought, okay, well, it's kind of a double positive. It looks like the Venezuela thing's not going to stick. Let's go with that pick. Good geology, good cash, message boards looks good. All of a sudden, I'm sitting here with Steph tonight. Vote passed. Venezuela's annexing half the country.
Look, can the people see the map we're looking at?
Yeah, show them where the hell's what's part of Venezuela now.
Oh my God!
Like all that gray. Like all their projects fall in that.
My heart goes out to Leo Hathaway.
Dude, unfortunate. You were my pick, man. Leo, you were my pick, and now. You're still my pick.
I'm glad you haven't changed.
I won't change. I won't change. Because you know what? There's only so low they can go. They just have cash and they have a rock star team. So they'll figure something out.
Yep.
That's where I'm going to go with it. It's going to be a figure it out, bet on the team. Let's go. December, I don't know. Anyway, that's my pick.
Got till January 15th. A lot can happen in New Year.
Lots can happen. Lots can happen. And you never know with this whole Guyana thing. It can, who knows? So that'll be that. If you want to pull up the list again, Steph, so we can look at it.
Don't you think
quickly.
there'll be a whole bunch of international pressure just to move back?
There may be.
I would think.
There may be. This is all pretty fresh off the press. Honourable mentions for me. I did want to pick Dore Copper, given what's going on in Dore. Dore is another message board. It's quieted down quite a bit. It's one that did get quite a bit of attention. Dore's pretty light on the cash, but what happened there, and the reason I liked that story and thought maybe this was the one, was because of what was announced earlier in the week vis-a-vis IAMGOLD and the Shibumu roll-up with, what's the name of that company? What is it? Is it Vanstar?
Yep.
Yeah, Vanstar. So Vanstar, so they kind of rolled up Nelligan in that area, and then these guys are in that Shibumu camp, and they have a brownfield site, and so it looks like IAMGOLD's going to make a strategic kind of push to, gobble up some things, and so I thought maybe they would, a little bit of that pixie dust would rub off on this stock. It doesn't look like it's happened yet. It probably should happen, in all fairness. Copper grade's pretty good. Gold, so, but it's overall it's there. Like
who runs that?
That's run by Mario Stefano.
Okay.
Yeah. So it, again, Mario's run some successful stuff. So 100% he knows how to get it going. So I thought that was a decent one, but their cash light, it's kind of like that financing overhang that I don't think you can get away from with that deal. Unfortunately, so I don't know. The other one was Alaska Energy Metals. So that one was cool. When we look at the sentiment data, it's got 4 million cash, low grade nickel, Alaska.
That's Greg Beischer.
Yeah. So that one was another one. That's another honorable mention. I was going to bait and swap here and switch. That probably would have been my pick. But I think if we looked at the sentiment, so here's the sentiment.
Yeah, it's strong with that.
Yeah, and then look at the message. Like there's a lot of hype going on there. So probably that's going to be better. So if I was betting on hype, I would say it's Alaska.
So if I'm reading this right, hype is at an all-time high, and the price just got whacked in November. Is that why you like it?
Yeah.
That red line is the price, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the red line's the price. Volumes are huge, so it's definitely tax loss selling.
It's a good one.
It's base metal, nickel, Alaska. It's big. It's one of these big low grade things, like 0.3% nickel, but like a big one. And they got a lot of work to do for sure. They have okay cash. I mean, you're not going to run a massive program, but with 3.8 million, I think it's reasonably stable cash wise.
So prudent too.
Yeah, and then a lot of activity. I would say the sentiment's kind of like probably erring a little bit more on the side of negative than positive in terms of the message, the quality of the messages. But overall, you can see the black lines going up, right? So
that's a great chart.
Yeah, so it's an interesting little, for our eyes only tool. Well, we'll share it with people for the golden.
Certain individuals. Oh, the golden guys get it?
For everybody. Everybody's going to get it.
Everyone but me.
No, you'll get it. Yeah, you'll get it after the fact. You already got the pick. Yeah, but this is how we test you.
I'm out of the goddamn game, man.
Well, in all fairness, I asked the guys to whip this up for us today, I think. So Freddie cranked it out. But
so what are the things, like if we look at those horizontal bars and the data you have, what are some ratios that would help if you could bundle it up for every single ticker on CEO.CA? Is there something you can combine
there's some
those?
cool stuff. There's some cool stuff because this is some of it, but you can also get overall like impressions and traffic. So it's like messages is part of the equation, but you can also just get overall traffic to those names and to those boards. Because for every kind of active user that messages on a board, there's 99 lurkers that don't log into CEO. They don't create a username. They don't.
Just watch.
They just watch. They just come in and they check the names that they like the best and they read their messages and stuff.
Any correlation between messages and volume?
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. So
Why are you laughing? This is the first time I've been here, right? I'm in the dark.
Yeah, no. It's well, he's laughing because it's kind of an internal kind of thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's definitely like patterns that are perceivable and helpful in determining what are good buys and not so good buys, or maybe when things might be time to get out.
Yes.
Type of situations.
Interesting.
Because you can see a change in the tides. You know, you can see a change in the tides sometimes. So these are powerful tools.
And do you sort
Eventually,
by
we'll be making
commodities
these tools
as well?
available for everybody on CEO. What's that?
Sorry, repeat that.
Eventually, this will be available for everybody on CEO.CA that you can play with on your own. So that's kind of part of our plans in the future here, is to make stuff like this available for people.
That's so powerful. So if you had that and you triangulated, if there's this massive increase. Well, firstly, before you did that, could you say, I'm totally interested in lithium, for example.
Yeah.
Just I want to follow lithium, and of the 32 names or 62 names on CEO.CA that are lithium, branded as lithium, give me the ones with the best ratio based on negative or chat numbers, chat activity, traffic volume. Because you're pulling in not just chatting, you're pulling in stock trading volume as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think if you were really into lithium or uranium, you could see the wave building on a certain stock pretty quickly if you had it plugged in.
For sure. And then, there's a lot. Yeah, this is going to get the juices spinning.
When will your product be available to the masses?
Well, I don't know. You got to ask Josh. I mean, I've been fucking beating the shit out of
These guys are asleep at the wheel over there.
Yeah, no. You know what? We're working on it, and it's a big thing. So I think what we're gonna have. So this is good because this is agnostic. This doesn't just matter for mining; it matters for everything. Right? Especially small caps, I think is particularly helpful, but even large caps too. But so this bit is sort of commodity agnostic, if you will, or even sector agnostic. So that I think it'll be helpful for everybody. But what we're working on right now, we bought the Northern Miner, mining.com, and there's a lot of traffic and information on that too, because they put a lot of publications and information out. So there's a ton of information that's valuable there that can be garnered. And of course, they have a lot of readership. So there's a lot of stuff. Some of the really cool stuff that you can see is that you can see some macro trends. Like, for instance, if you want to look at junior coppers, right? So if you classify all the companies, you figure out which ones are junior coppers, and we add those labels, which we've done. And then you'd say, okay, well, out of this basket, how are they doing? Are we seeing a 300% spike interest in retail traffic on junior coppers, right? That's valuable information. Individual names that might jump out, but there may be some articles on copper that suddenly get read more.
Yeah.
Right. So there's all kinds of really cool sentiment data, and there's value. That's why there's value in this media space. And a lot of people think I'm wacko.
They do.
But this is not wacko. This is like there's value here for sure.
I can see it.
Yeah.
You just can't overcomplicate it. Like I think if you're going to be a lurker, you shouldn't benefit. But if you're a paid user and you pay for that premium data, it'd be amazing.
Right.
Like there's a wave building in lithiums or junior coppers, and and then you can say, well, what's the universe? There's 52 names in CO.CA. Just pick one or pick five or pick the Canadian ones or avoid the Canadian ones and pick the Chilean ones or whatever.
Totally. And so one of the things we want to do is we want to bundle some of this stuff up. So just to round out where I was going with that, because you're right, you reeled me in. With the Northern Miner, mining.com and all that, what I want to have is like a CEO Mining Plus subscription where it's priced very cheaply, right? Affordably for everybody. We're not talking a fortune, and you would get unfettered access to the some of those articles and stuff on mining.com and Northern Miner are paywalled and et cetera. So you get unfettered access to all that, and then you get a lot of these cool widgets and tools. The other thing that we've got coming out with this would be our drill holes. So do you remember Intera?
Yeah.
And Cap IQ?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, SNL, S&P Global. They have, and it's really expensive, right, to get, that for a year. So if we've basically cloned that, but we think we've done it better. So we've got real time when a company puts out their press releases. We've got the drill holes. They're pulled them out. They're all kind of, you can click on any company and you'll get every single drill hole they've ever drilled on that or that's ever been drilled by them or anybody else on that property. You'll get, a grade width calculator built in, so it can do some funny internal dilution measurements and stuff if you're concerned about smearing and those types of things. And so just to make that more interactive and more relevant, so you don't have to sift through press releases to try to find out like what's been drilled on this property and what kind of values they're getting. So that can be a particularly powerful tool. So that's also, and you can filter companies by gram meter intercepts or copper percent. Like it's, again, for any nickel, anything you want, really, lithium, all of it. So that's going to be really fun. So there you go.
Well, one comment I make on that is, for example, if you go to the New Orleans Investment Conference in New Orleans, obviously, and there's like 500 people sitting in the audience, and then Rick Rule's up there, and they're talking about all these things, and people are kind of nodding away or nodding off or maybe listening. But then when it's time for the 3 stock picks that he has, everyone bolts upright and writes it down. So I think that there's a few people that will be able to leverage the data you're talking about, like, is a drill hole good or not? Are they smearing or whatever? But the audience is pretty small compared to the investable masses out there. But I think this information you have is so powerful because you could literally say, like, here's the top 3 based on these things every day, because the capital will flow all over the place into different sectors and different sizes of companies, and it'll move around. And as you said, it's agnostic, and all you're saying is, here's our filter. Use it if you want, if you're a premium user. And I think that audience is a hell of a lot bigger because it could be generalists from Singapore or retail guys from Thailand that are trading Canadian stocks and don't even know what the hell a Canadian junior is.
Well, the other thing is, too, is you can quantify this stuff. So as you mentioned, there's a certain barrier of entry to like knowledge to be able to navigate through this space and make educated bets.
Totally.
Right? And so part of that barrier is understand there's a lot to it, right? Like there's not just like what's a good gold intercept or what's a good copper intercept, because it depends where you are, right? So we also have the old Intera thing, that team with Glenn. So that's DigiGeo, right?
Yeah.
Which is a spatial program. So when we did the drill hole thing, we didn't just do it based on numbers from press releases. We did it spatially too. So they're linked to places on a map, right? And why that's important is because what's a good drill hole in Red Lake is different than what's a good drill hole in Newfoundland or what's a good drill hole in Nevada,
or
right?
Nunavut.
Or Nunavut.
Or Alaska.
What's around you. So there's a lot of quantitative kind of input you can put. So where I'm kind of going with that is that you can come up with like almost like a Rotten Tomatoes score for, almost like Rotten Tomatoes, like IMDb or whatever, like film stuff. You can come up with sort of a Rotten Tomatoes score for like, is this a good release? Are these results in the top quintile of that area, the bottom quintile of that area? Like, how do they matter relative to that area? And then, notwithstanding that, having the ability for users too, just to like upvote or downvote, press releases. Like, was this a good overall positive release, or is it a negative release, or was it neutral? And I think that's important too, because not everybody's going to come out of this an expert, and you shouldn't have to be an expert in the space to have expert metrics to have educated decisions.
Yeah.
And so if we can start to break down that barrier of entry for people and make it more accessible for a new investor, a younger investor, let's say, like people that have a Wealthsimple account or a Robinhood account that want to, like, they're hearing Dalio talk about how they should own some gold, and then they don't know where to go. At least with this, we got tools, we've got different measures and things that could give them, and it's not going to be right all the time. Like, let's face it, you can use a lot of this stuff and suddenly somebody can hit Eureka, like amazing hole, right?
It doesn't, like, the key point I think you just made for me was the context, giving them perspective. So if you have 15 companies in an area, a drill hole comes out, how does it rate against the other 14?
Yep.
You can say it's 3 out of 15. That gives them an idea. If it's 14 out of 15, then they can say, well, that's not that great. And if the stock trades up, they might be confused. If the stock trades down, they'll understand it. If it's 7, they might say, well, their last 5 were in the top 3. So, just a hiccup, and I'll take advantage of weakness. But the perspective, because most people they hear a pitch and they have no context of what you're saying, if it's good or bad. They're like, what does that mean? What does that intercept actually mean? I have no clue.
Right.
And that what you're saying kind of gets over that.
Yeah, and some of the cool stuff that we did historically too, like we had like in map space with DigiGeo. The idea for me too on that was that we could take a lot of this financial information and project it into the map space for the visual user.
Yeah.
Because there's different people that like to, go to numbers and percentages and charts and graphs. But there's also people that want to see this information displayed as heat maps.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can show you like all of Red Lake and then the financing histories and like what the traffic and eyeball volume is. And so when you're looking at closeology plays, you can tell, well, clearly you kind of got to be on this trend to really be, when Great Bear, for instance, good example, Great Bear Confederation Rocks opens up, Great Bear's there, LP fall. A lot of people were around Great Bear, but not everybody was on trend.
Nobody was.
Right. And so, so it can be interesting to kind of shine some light on that as well and help people, give people some additional ammo to make better bets and to kind of demystify and put some of these things on maps. And I think creating an interactive map space to visualize finance data is equally beneficial to a subset of people. And this is only, again, we're talking to the junior mining investing enthusiast. We're not talking to the generalist out there, like you're into pharmaceuticals or weed stocks, whatever. But some of this stuff is valuable for those people too. So they'll come. Right now, most of our clientele and user base is mining people.
If you had a heat map of the Red Lake District and that heat map showed trading volume by company, that would be amazing. Just one look and say, where's the action?
Yeah.
That would be so powerful.
Where's all the heat?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can do money too. So financings. So this was a cool one. So we did a video of it was 10 year of the whole world of nickel financings around the world. And they look like little explosions. And the bigger the explosion was, the bigger the financing was.
Wow.
Right. So you can sort of see various regions of the earth, and then there'll come a time where all this money gets raised in a certain area, and then that quiets down, and then it crops up somewhere else, like in Alaska or in Western Australia or whatever. And so you'll see these areas as they sort of heat up and money flies at them. And so that's an important perspective, because if you can look at that, you can do it. And it's you can do it for any commodity. You can do it for nickel, you can do it for gold, copper.
This is what you can do now?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's cool. And then we have all this weird insider stuff too. So we connected all the insiders together and created these crazy insider anyway, there's all kinds of stuff that's happening, but it's going to change the way people interact with information, and it's hopefully going to make this more accessible to more people.
And the only answer is CEO.CA premium membership.
That's right.
Only answer.
That's it. Some of it'll be
Simple.
there for free. You got to bait the hook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, or maybe give people a bit of a freemium, limited. You can only look at the, et cetera. You can look at the last 20 drill holes or something. You can't see the whole archive unless you're, whatever. So there'll be some things that we'll make free. And it'll be useful for people that are even just lurkers. We want them too, but we want to convert them. And right now it's free. You can sign up for CEO, have a username and a handle, and go and shit talk Denny and make fat jokes and
absolutely
tell me how big of a loser I am and how bad of a job I'm doing on my stocks. But it's good. I think that's part of the game. So anyway, I hope that somebody comes in and crushes us, and all this cool hocus pocus means nothing. And somebody out there is going to pick 3 names that beat the hell out of us 2 guys, and that we got to buy them a lobster dinner. It doesn't necessarily have to be Red Lobster, but could be anywhere.
Where's the nearest Red Lobster to here?
I don't know.
Mississauga? I don't know. Right here?
Up the street?
Nice. This is going to work out great.
Okay, it'll be funny.
This is going to be good.
Yeah.
The bibs and the crowns and the red wine.
So the golden bibs, the red wine will flow that night. There will be a lot of swearing, a lot of laughing, and it'll be fun. So with that, did I miss anything? We want to chat some more? Are we done?
I want to say thank you. It was a great honor being here. What a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
It was an awesome exercise too. I hope people, and if they think they're too late, put the brakes on. You can do it in June, right? That's what your chart does. It's amazing.
Do it again in June.
Why not do it when the timing's right?
Yeah. Yep. And again, you know, congratulations on a fantastic career, and I wish you much success in the future. God. And I hope that we can. We got to do this again. We got to catch up and crown the victor at PDAC.
Yeah, well, we're not going to do a show like January 16th or something, the day after, the week after.
We sure will. We definitely could.
Yeah, we'll announce the winner.
Let's do it.
We'll build the excitement.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in.
We'll be back.
I'm in. Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.